Hello and welcome to the 1990 series. My name is Amanda O'Shea from the Serendipity Experience, and I have with me today Sue Lachman from Israel. Welcome, Sue. Lovely to see you.
Thank you.
How are you doing?
Nice to see you too. I'm good, yes. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. I was just saying, it's got a bit chilly here in Spain now. You know, the winter or the autumn rains, the autumnal rains have come, and it's chilled up a bit. So, which is nice if you've got all your cozy things and your blankets out. And
I'm afraid I prefer the warm weather. So I was saying before we came on that I live in a place called Ramat Beit Shemesh, which is sort of south of Jerusalem and Tel Aviv. And Beit Shemesh means the house of the sun. So it is particularly hot here usually. Last night it apparently rained. I didn't see it, and because the sun's out, it's dried everything up.
yeah,
It does. It also gets a bit cooler when it rains here, but the weather is still very warm.
lovely. But you didn't always live in Israel. I know that you spent some time in London, didn't you, Sue? Where were you born and things? Were you born?
Yeah, I was born in London, in northwest London, and I lived there, married there, and had all my children there. I have 5 children. And then we decided to come to Israel. As I said, we have 5 children. 2 of them have Down syndrome, my youngest 2. And the youngest has been adopted. We adopted him. And we decided that we wanted to come to Israel because the education here was so amazing for special needs.
Right.
In special schools, I should say, not necessarily in mainstream schools, but it just suited us. So we upped and came, which was, I have to tell you, not an easy thing to do.
With
A
5
bit of a
children.
culture shock.
Yeah.
5 children, yeah. I don't know how I did that one.
They've all adapted. I mean,
Yeah, actually, it's very funny because the youngest 2, as I said, have Downs, and they speak English and Hebrew fluently.
Wow.
I mean, their speech is not good, but they speak and understand. They live, in that environment.
Yeah.
And I'm still struggling 13 years on, so there you are.
Yeah, because I always remember you talking a lot about Camden Town or that sort of area, because I'm from Maida Vale. That's where I grew up.
Oh, right. No, so my husband's from Maida Vale.
Yeah.
In fact, his mother still lives there.
That's right. I remember the connection now, because we used to live, I've always lived around Maida Vale, around the mansion blocks, and we lived on Lauderdale Road and Biddulph Road and around all those. And I remember having a conversation with your husband at one of the Viva events.
That's right.
Yeah. So there's always a connection, isn't there? So,
always. Yeah, we all know each other somehow.
It's incredible if we sit and have a conversation with somebody we've just met or a stranger, that we look for the connection without realizing that.
I know. It's very funny.
Where did you get to?
Yeah.
We're looking for that, and I always find that quite nice in that conversation, that we'd love, I think, to come across that. Oh, my son went to that school, or oh yeah, my uncle lives there. Or,
yeah.
We love it, don't we? We love.
Yeah, I think it's sort of it gives us. I think it gives some people a sense of belonging. A sense of comfort or something.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Yeah,
it is that we do that sort of on automatic pilot, really.
It's very true.
I love the title of this talk, Rethinking Relationships, and get you to tell us a little bit more about that. But before I do that, I just want to let you know that this 90 and 90 series that I'm doing is 90 little conversations with 90 fabulous people over 90 days, and seeing that there are people sort of spreading this beautiful message from all over the world. So I've been very fortunate with the community that I've found myself in the last 7 years or so, to have these relationships, even if they're people I don't see very often, or only see online on a training or a webinar or at an event sort of once a year, that feel really strong and powerful, and they're people that pop into my mind a lot. But Sue, I want to give thanks to you for all the laughs and joy that you bring when I just even think, when I hear the name Sue Lachman, when I see you, you know, I've got such good, like, lovely memories, especially from the Viva events. And you and your naughtiness, you know, and your innocent naughtiness. Um, just, yeah, really, you know, you are such a joyous lady, and your sense of humor and your fun, you know, has really trickled in. And so I thank you for all of that. It's like always a joy for me, like, oh, Sue's coming, oh great.
It's so funny, isn't it? Because my father years ago told me, I mean, he's not alive anymore, but he told me when he was. I mean, obviously, he couldn't tell me when he's not. he said, you've got no sense of humour.
Oh, really?
So there you are.
Isn't that funny?
So I thought, oh my gosh, I mean, I must be boring as a person if I've got no sense of humour. And that's really why I married, one of the reasons why I must have married my husband, because, you know, accountants, they say, are really boring. So he's an accountant, so he doesn't laugh at my jokes either. Anyway.
Oh, well, isn't it nice to know that there's some people that do?
There is, yes, it's really nice. Thank you.
And isn't that interesting that, you know, as a parent, or even as a I don't know, things that we might have said that we don't realize the kind of impact it might have had, that just actually isn't true.
Yeah.
And it's always so interesting that kind of, like, I find myself when I'm doing a talk or running a workshop or even working in a one-to-one, how often I sort of say, like, in my opinion, no, this is how I see it. Because I know that just because something's my opinion doesn't mean it's true. It's just the way I'm seeing it right now. And I think that, I guess we would, you know, when we explore that a little bit more, we explore what I'd probably call separate realities, and we'll make that up. And I don't know, I'm very excited to hear about your book, because I don't know what sort of rethinking relationships is about, but I do see that relationships are very complicated, especially with the misunderstanding of how separate realities are created, and how, you know. So I'd love to, I mean, all I've heard is that it's soon to be released, and that that, you know, I meant to introduce you actually as Sue Lachman, the author. Authoress. because you know, this is your third book.
Yeah, and there's a couple more in the wings waiting. One has been edited and got lots of red marks on it, and I'm too frightened to look at it again. Okay. About my cancer journey, and one about money, and one about dieting. So. Okay,
you got it all covered.
Well, I hope so. No, not quite, but you know, it's just from my experiences. That's the truth. I'm not writing about something that hasn't affected or, you know, touched me. Not affected, but touched me in some way. That I write about something that I've heard, things that I've heard, things that I've seen for myself and experienced myself. So, you know, it's not made up or something someone else has told me about and I've written about it. It's my own experiences woven into, you know, stories and things about certain subject lines. That's all they are, really. Titles. Yeah.
Wow. So I know that you and I can natter forever and with that, but in a nutshell then, could you tell me what this latest book, Rethinking Relationships, is pointing to?
Yeah. So one of the things that I have noticed in my life, I think that's the biggest thing that I've noticed, is that when I first married my husband, when I first fell in love and married my husband, I thought he was the best thing since sliced bread. Oh. He didn't do anything wrong until, until he didn't do what I thought he should be doing. And I think for me, I've seen the biggest growth in my relationship and how it's, I'm going to say, settled back to unconditional love. And that's not all the time, but it's most of the time. And that's what I love about this understanding, is that knowing that you can still go in and out of things. It's, sometimes he still doesn't look great, and sometimes he does. So I started, and I saw a lot of people. I have on my I have an email list, and on that list I ask people a question. What do you struggle with most? And so many people were writing to me about different parts of their relationship. And it's not necessarily relationship with a husband or a wife or a partner, whatever. It's sometimes with relationships with your children, with your extended family, with colleagues even, or friends. And it's across the board. I mean, in a way we know that what I write about is for everything. I've just packaged it. I've just put it in a nice wrapper and called it Rethinking Relationships. It's just inviting people to look and see that we can maybe see a different perspective sometimes, and that can change absolutely everything, and how we see the person in front of us or the person in our mind, and how we think they are, or how we think they should be. So it started off as that, and it's not a very long book. It's just like 20-odd thousand words. So I kept it short because I wanted it to be an easy read.
Right. And that's going to be an ebook.
Yeah, initially it was written really, so as a gift for people. I mean, I have another book called Life is a Kaleidoscope, and that's on Amazon actually, but it's also a gift. It's free.
Right.
So yeah, it's a gift for people, because what I want to share is, I don't own it. No one owns it. So I wanted to give things as a gift.
Right.
I am charging for other books though, when they eventually come out. But they're a lot longer and they're much more substantial, let's say.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I just thought that relationships was something that everyone can relate to, because it's about life. It's everybody is touched by a relationship in one way or another.
Yeah.
And how they see their relationships, and how they react and behave, literally as how we think about them at that moment. So.
And there is something there about, when you talk about perspective. I remember one of the things that really made sense to me, something that I think I first heard first understood it really was in a Jack Pransky training that I did. I think I'd spent a lot of years believing, or even trying to get people to look at things from the sort of same perspective that I was seeing it from.
Yeah.
Thinking innocently, like, well, I'm happy, so if you look at it the way I'm looking at it, like, you'll be happy too, Or,
yeah.
And I think there was something, the way Jack described once, that it's not, that just doesn't work, but also when people get an insight that they are only seeing any situation or event or relationship from the perspective that they're in that moment, and they get to see that that's one out of a gazillion that's available to them in that moment, then what happens is we're not trying to make them change that. That's really different if they can step back and see, right, I'm seeing it like this. That's one out of God knows how many. This thing to change them eases off, and then it just seems like they can slip left or right into a, if we've got our scale of perspectives, they can move a little bit and know that that's even available when we step back. And I think that's when we're in something, or like you say, when your husband looked like he's annoying, or your husband looks like he's this in that moment, that looks real. Like, that's the idea, that it looks real.
Mm-hmm.
It always reminds me of like that fly that sort of, you know, like a fly that's trying to get out of a window, hits against the glass.
Yeah.
And like next to it is a window that's open.
Yes.
And like this, it keeps going back, like, and
that's a good one. Yeah.
And I was thinking, as us being the observer, we're watching the fly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, and you know, it's like, oh well, what do? Well, we either just keep watching the fly do it, or we might gently kind of, we normally say, oh come on sweetheart, we get a piece of paper or something, or you know, we push it towards,
to move it out,
the window. And you know, if you don't like flies, you might get a paper, and I don't know, you might
just let you
but
ash his head in. Yeah,
probably know what my first instinct would be to do. And it's sometimes we're just in something and we're so headstrong that, oh, we've got to get through this closed door. And that invitation to step back, like step back, is so helpful in relationships, because, you know, I see that we're either head on head, or we've got one person's more open who's listening. And if we have two people more open, we tend to have this, you know?
Yeah.
And so a lot of, I think, at times we end up in relationships with this need that, or this heading head, and feels like there's this fight going on of, well, one's right and one's wrong.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of, you know,
absolutely.
You said it, when somebody's doing something that isn't the way that you want them to do it, isn't that interesting that we can label them a difficult person?
Yes. And, you know, I mean, one of the things that I wanted to do in the book was to be perfectly open and honest about, I mean, not with going into specific things. I don't think my husband might kill me for that, but, you know, generally to explain that, you know, I always thought that if only he could see this, if only he would do that, and it had nothing to do with any of those if onlys or should haves or wouldn't you have, you know, or anything like that. So when I saw that, I just thought, you know, why not write about it? It's crazy not to. And hopefully, I mean, all I can do is to point people in the right direction. I can't do anything else. You know, sort of guide people, whatever you want to call it. So that's really why I wrote it. But as you say, you know, we can get so fixed in our beliefs. And I always like this idea, when someone a long time ago told me that in the word belief, it's not a truth. And in fact, the word lie is in the word belief. So, they're just ideas. Yeah, they're just ideas that we have about something.
I've never seen that, the word lie in belief. Isn't that fun? I love the play with words.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you for that, Sue. That is so true. Belief.
Yeah.
And that is, you know, what is truth? You know, it's what I believe in this moment. That is what my personal truth is. Yes. And of course, it feels like what we're pointing to is more of a deeper truth. You know, we're pointing to a universal truth.
Yes.
I think that's what I see the difference. But seeing that everything that I make up from my personal sort of understanding is based on beliefs, the belief systems. It's worth exploring it's worth shining a little light, isn't it, on those areas in our life that feel like they're difficult or feel like they're. And that doesn't mean that just because we start to realize this, it doesn't mean we need to stay in relationships that really don't suit us. Or
absolutely not. In fact, I think, again, as I said before, you know, I love the 3 principles and the understanding and the, you know, that I've gained over the years, because I've realized that you know, you don't have to play it any particular way. They're not a prescription, as people have said. They're a description of how life works. And then it's up to you. You know, here they are. Do what you want with them.
Yeah.
And people do anyway. You know, But with a deeper understanding, then we can see, look, sometimes relationships just don't work out. But you know, it's great that we can come out of them with clarity, with calm, in a different place than from this head-on, you know, anger and upset and frustration, and blaming. You know, a lot of it is blaming someone else. So, you know, being able to come out of something, being able to walk away from, you know, a colleague or something at work and leave the job or something like that, you know. I think it's very helpful.
I do see, actually, what you just said there is that I think so many decisions are made from a low level of consciousness. So many big decisions to, you know, we're talking about relationships, which can be anything: leave your job, you know, I don't know, change your car, you know, get divorced. You know, we're not just talking about a kind of his and her relationship, or her and her relationship, or whatever it might be. But we're talking about making any big decisions from a place of clarity. And something happens when, you know, sometimes I think people do come and it feels like the big decision is, you know, they, for example, they're not getting on with their husband. Actually, what they really want to do would be to leave or to end. You know, that is feeling very difficult. And I think as long as that decision is made, you know, from a place of clarity, and having this understanding just is so super helpful with that.
Yes.
Because that it might mean that some people, you know, that relationship has, I don't know yet, is not panning out at the moment. But to be able to know that you left that relationship from a place of common sense and you know, understanding and clarity is very, very different. And it also gives the chance for there to be a happy sort of separation, or you know, a cleaner kind of something like that. And I see that sort of whole thing of second chance is that when we stop looking out and stop pointing and blaming, and we look at our side, you know, let's look at my side of this relationship, because I think we're only really ever in a relationship with ourselves. It just looks like we're in a relationship with all these other selves. So I really look forward to that. Will you be, how will we know when the book's ready? How will we know?
Oh, I'll put it out everywhere, I'm sure.
Yeah. Okay.
And it will be on my website eventually. At the moment, there's just Life is a Kaleidoscope up there.
Yeah.
But it will be on my website, so you know, people can go on there and download it, and hopefully it will be in the next couple of weeks.
Oh, that's amazing. Sue, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
Give my love to everybody over there in Israel.
Thank you.
And I'll see you soon. You'll be at
Yes, I'll see you soon. I'm excited.
Really, really looking forward to seeing you. Okay,
well, thank you so much for including me. I really appreciate it.
Absolute, my pleasure. You're an amazing lady, and you have you know, there's a lot to be, for me, there's a lot to be learned by listening to you. So thank you, Sue. Okay, big kiss, lots of love. Bye. Thank you, everybody. Hope you enjoyed this.